the muscle will not contract. It gets no stimulation. Say the motor neuron is sliced, cut off. No electricity can get there. It is paralyzed. Okay?
Whole body's paralyzed.
The muscle. This one muscle is paralyzed. However, here's the deal. This is just going to a couple of this muscle, right? If this is just one axon, a peripheral nerve has got a bunch of axons in there, right? And its motor unit may be going to a different part. Another nerve might have a couple of different parts of this muscle fiber, right? And another one might have a couple of different muscle fibers. So if it's just one axon, it's just those little muscle fibers that are paralyzed. They are flaccid. They do not contract. If the whole nerve is destroyed, then that whole muscle is flaccid. And when the nerve is destroyed, we get that Walderian degeneration that happens. I explained how the axon dies away very quickly this way. This can stay up to 2 years. The motor unit right here can stay functional for 2 years. So if the axon regenerates back, it can eventually work again. So for the axillary muscle, the axillary nerve, the deltoid, right? If the axillary nerve, you have a tumor, and somehow it's compressing against the axillary nerve, right? You guys good with me on that one? Mm-hmm. Is the deltoid got a lot of tone, or does it have no tone? No tone. That is a peripheral nerve. Peripheral nerve is not working, it's not coming there. What if in the brain, now here's the difference, this is the whole difference. An upper motor neuron, do you guys ever see those fancy light switches like in the dining room where you flip on the switch and off, the lights go on, but then you can dim it and undim it? Yeah? The dimmer is your upper motor neuron. Your light switch is your lower motor neuron. The dimmer will change the excitability in the spinal cord and make that motor neuron work harder or less or control it. Okay? So usually with an upper motor neuron problem, what happens is there's lack of inhibition and this guy fires too much all the time and causes what they call spasticity. You've seen it with, they're like spastic, they can't move, and they can't segment their movement. You guys should ask me now, why, if this part of the brain is destroyed and the cortical spinal tract coming down is not working, why is that still getting, that light switch, the dimmer switch telling it to move? Because we have other tracts that I didn't talk to you about, like your cerebrospinal tract, vestibulospinal tract. All these other tracts coming down from your brain can come down. There's a bunch of other ones. I only had you guys learn 4. There's a bunch of other ones that come down that will send some innervation there. And it's not coming from the motor cortex. It's coming from your vestibular system. It's coming from all kinds of your cerebrospinal system. It's coming from the red nucleus in your midbrain. So all these other tracts are coming down and firing on here, and they have nobody overseeing them, the cortical spinal tract. So they're just let loose on this guy, and this guy is constantly getting information, and he's constantly spasming out the muscles. That's why people that have tone when they sleep at night, they don't have any tone. Who works with the traumatic brain injuries there? When they're at night, when they're sleeping, do you have a lot of tone people? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're at night, they're relaxed and they're fine. That's because the other tracts, your vestibulospinal tract, your cerebrospinal tract, all these other tracts that are firing when you're upright for position sense, aren't firing on this neuron anymore, causing it to have a problem. So it's when they're upright is when they're at the worst. When they're laying on their side, and this is when they say, anybody familiar with pediatrics and the Bobath method and all that stuff? The real tone kids, the real bad tone kids, they say, lay them on their side or on their back to start stretching them, because when they're on their side and their back, all these other neurons that would be firing in the brain aren't firing on there. It takes away some of the tone so they can stretch better. Okay? Alrighty. That was a big mouthful. Alright, so low motor neurons. Their cell bodies are located in the ventral horn of the spinal cord. The axons leave out. there's two different cell bodies in the axon on the spinal cord there. You got your alpha motor neurons. Those are the ones that go to the muscles and the motor units. And then you got your gamma motor neurons. And those are the ones that actually go in and they innervate the muscle spindle inside the muscle. I'm not going to go into gamma motor neuron biasing. I think that's a little bit beyond this class. However, just a little clinical thing. If you want to try to strengthen a muscle that is flaccid or weak from a lower motor neuron problem, there's a very easy way of doing it that is more effective is you get them into a shortened range and you do isometrics in the shortened range. Okay? The isometric in the shortened range fires this guy and it helps the spinal cord level to increase the activity here. Okay? Gamma motor neuron bias is done at the muscle spindle level. What happens is, as your muscle gets shorter, the muscle spindles don't fire anymore, right? Because there's no stretch on them. So the gamma motor neuron bias tightens up the muscle spindle at the shorter range, and then you get more input back to the spinal cord. ALS is a type of disease that would be from the lower motor neuron. And you guys did not see this, so you guys can watch this.
I looked up multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease to begin with. They both had symptoms that didn't seem to fit mine. And I saw ALS, and in parentheses it said Lou Gehrig's disease, and at that point I knew who Lou Gehrig was and that he died of something.